Let the house in the rich country be your cash register for the house you're building or buying in your native land.
We are welcome to today's video where we dive into powerful stories of immigrants who have built wealth in the diaspora. This is Comfort for Life, and I bring to you a compilation of TikTok videos for educational purposes. If you're new here, consider subscribing to the channel for more exciting videos, and to my returning subscribers, I love and appreciate your effort. And today's video was a suggestion by one of you, so you're welcome to also share your thoughts in the comment section. What would you want to see next? In this video, we'll be hearing from different individuals sharing their journeys, from unlearning old habits to thriving in a new financial system, making smart investment choices, and managing money like pros. Don't you like that? There is wealth of knowledge packed into this, so I will invite you to take note of insights that resonate with you. And don't forget that everyone's journey is different. So if you're an immigrant already investing, would like to hear from you, your experiences, and let's all learn together. Let's start a conversation around this and let's grow. I'll let you enjoy the rest of the video.
No one talks about how, as an immigrant kid, there are so many personal finance lessons that you have to unlearn to succeed in this country. These are the top ones that I had to unlearn. The first thing I had to unlearn is that investing is dangerous and you will lose your money. My parents were convinced that investing was one of the worst things you could do, and they had a limited understanding of investing, but they would always communicate it to me as extremely risky and something that you absolutely should not be doing. I'm so glad I unlearned that, and I listened to experts who teach you how to invest in a safe way over the long term, because investing is truly one of the best ways to build wealth. I didn't listen to them when it came to investing. Another thing I had to unlearn was that buying a home is the only way to build wealth. Buying a house would have been one of the worst things I could have done. It would have really restricted my ability to be flexible, which was one of the things that was so crucial for me in my 20s. For me, buying a house would have been so much more expensive than renting. Instead, I rented most of my 20s, and I also invested a lot of money. Another thing I had to unlearn in my 20s was that credit cards are evil. That is not the case. If you know how to use credit cards properly, pay off your balance every month, you can gain the benefits of increasing your credit score, getting points which you can use to reduce your flight costs and reduce your travel costs, generally making your purchases cheaper through using a credit card, because you can get cash back or you can get points. And I would have not been able to take advantage of that if I'd listened to them and I hadn't unlearned that credit cards are inherently evil. I unlearned that lesson so much that I actually made my sister an authorized user of my credit card so she could have really good credit when she started applying for credit cards. Another thing I had to unlearn was deprioritizing your convenience and going for the cheapest possible item. I feel like I'm saying this weirdly, but always fighting for like the last dollar. Anyone who's an immigrant kid has the experience of their parents being extremely frugal, wasting so much time to make sure that they save $1. You know what I mean? Or they save a very low amount. I don't do that anymore. Mentally, I have a number where it's like, I don't mind losing this number for the increased convenience. Because for me, my time matters a lot, sometimes over certain dollar values. So I'm willing to go for something that's more convenient to make my life easier so I could use my time in other ways.
If you're Black, age 18 to 35, and you're committed to building a different financial future from the one you grew up with, there's a chance at some point you're going to have to start paying Black tax. Unlike other taxes, there's no brackets when it comes to paying Black tax. There's no clear-cut rule for how much is too much when you start paying Black tax. If you do not proactively set a boundary, it can very sneakily take over your future building plan. The generational wealth people speak about building, it's actually breaking generational programming. If we do not have boundaries around our own money, we will just start to create a new negative program, which is resenting our money. Irony is, the thought of saying no to Black tax feels and sounds really selfish, but it's genuinely one of the most generous things you can do for your future and for breaking generational cycles. I remember asking my therapist, how do I draw this line? Like, is the line of too much genuinely when I just don't have any more to give? Her response was a hard no. She taught me that you have to look at your needs now and look at your needs in the future to decide how much you actually have to give. That short-term thinking of just looking at your needs now and what you have now is exactly the cycles that you're trying to break. I promise you, I know this is so hard to do in practice, but without clear, predefined, proactive, not reactive boundaries, you're going to find yourself in a vicious cycle of guilt, burnout, and resentment.
If you are an immigrant and you've just arrived in the United States, here are 3 things you need to know to save money. Number 1, car. You don't necessarily need to start a lease and be engaged for 3 years with a car contract. The average lease is around $300 to $500 per month based on where you're going to live. In California, most of the times, it it's even more expensive. Instead, you can get a used car, and instead of giving the down payment for a lease, you can buy a car. Don't get a fancy car at the beginning so you can save more money. There are so many websites where you can look for a car, or you can use Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, for example. Be careful because most of the times, not most of the times, but sometimes you can find some scams. Number 2, you need to build a credit score and credit history. If you recently moved to the US, you don't have any credit score and credit history. So the first step is to build it. You can do that by having a credit card, but at the beginning, nobody's going to give you a credit card because you don't have any credit history. So you need to do a secure deposit credit card. A secure deposit credit card allows you to build your credit score and history by paying back your credit card. It's not just a regular credit card, it's a secure deposit. So you need to deposit the amount of money you have to pay back every time. And that's your limit as well. That means that if you make a deposit of $500, your credit limit is $500. So every time you spend $500, you need to pay it back. Doing so, after a few months, you're going to have different options and different credit cards you can apply. The best options for credit card, it's another topic. Number 3, housing and rent or buy a house. Most probably, if you move to the US, you are going to start a business or you want to invest your money to grow your career or business. But even if you have the money to buy a house, I don't recommend to buy a house right away. This is because most of the times, you don't know how much you're going to spend after you bought a house. So if you're going to rent at the beginning, you're going to see the average cost each month and extra costs as well. So after a while, you probably understand better if it makes sense to buy or keep renting. Moreover, most of the immigrants arrive in the big cities like Miami, New York, Chicago, or Los Angeles. And renting a house or buying a house, it's really expensive in these places. So start low, don't take a big shot at the beginning so you can save money for other things. And then in the future, you can decide to scale up and get a better house or buy a house. But especially at the beginning, you're going to spend way more than what you have in your mind when you leave.
So if you're spending a lot of your income on needs, say up to 80%, one budget plan that might work for you is the 80-10-10 budget, which is basically another variation of the 50-30-20 budgeting rule. But the difference here, though, is that instead of spending 50% on needs, 30% on wants, and 20% on savings and debt repayment, you'll spend 80% on needs, 10% on wants, and then 10% for savings and debt repayment. And to give you an example of how this might work, let's say your take-home pay is $3,500 a month. Now this is take home or net. So basically what you see on your check after payroll deduction. So if you're spending 80% on needs, which includes housing, utilities, food, minimum debt payment, insurance, or any other expense that isn't a choice, that means if you bring home $3,500, that's about $2,800 going to those expenses. In which case you should have about $700 left, which you can then split between wants, savings, and debt repayment. So that's $350 here and $350 there. So if you're single on your own, here's how you can realistically live rent-free every single month and save yourself a ton of money. You can become a professional house sitter. There are some people who go out of town frequently, maybe for weeks or even months at a time. And when they're gone, sometimes they don't like to leave their house unattended for the entire time because they know anything can happen. So what they will do is hire people to just stay in their house throughout that entire period. Sometimes you'll also be responsible for taking care of pets, and you might do some light things around the house, like maybe mow the lawn, take out the trash, do some light cleaning until they come back. And if you live in the city or a place that's heavily populated, it is possible that you can have these gigs lined up one after the other. So if you house sit for one person for maybe 3 weeks, by the time they come back, you might have another gig lined up. You might also look into becoming a live-in companion or assistant to someone. Now, this is for someone who, they're still independent, so they're able to do a lot of stuff on their own, but they might need some assistance, maybe with helping with housework, maybe with taking care of their pets, or maybe just cooking light dinners or cleaning up for them. And you'll still go to work every day. Like, this isn't like a full-time gig, but in exchange for you being able to live with them rent-free, you in exchange help them wherever they might need some assistance.
As a child of immigrants, there's a lot of things in my life that I had to figure out on my own. So yo les voy a enseñar 5 things that I had to learn about money on my own. First off, always track your hours and check your pay stubs. You never know when your employer will be scamming you or if you're just missing hours in your paycheck. Anytime you're legally obligated to sign a contract for any certain thing like a lease, a car loan, anything, read the fine print. Make sure you're aware of all the details, late fees, transaction fees, anything. Please read the fine print. If you're verbally having an agreement with an individual, always text them, email them a summary of that conversation. You want everything in writing as proof. Even if it was like, hey, you confirmed that you're going to pay me $15 an hour, correct? That's proof. Por alguna razón, our parents love to stick to the same providers, but no, we're going to use the best providers for our specific service, get quotes, get best coverage. You can switch insurance providers. Don't stick to the same one because we want to make sure that we're saving our money and also getting the best for our buck. And lastly, this is more of a travel hack, but always use your credit card when traveling. I know our parents keep telling us to use cash, but no, that shit can be stolen, as well as if we use our debit cards. What if they get a copy of your debit card and then all of a sudden all your money's gone on your debit card? So always use a credit card when traveling.
Do you want to be the first millionaire in your family? Here are my 3 best tips to help you achieve it. Number 1, start investing early and often. And don't listen to the fake gurus. They tell you need 20 to 50 grand to get started. That's just bullshit. Find a way to save $50 to $100 a week starting out and let compounding do the rest. And number 2, you have to change your mindset. When you get money, rather than thinking about what can I buy, think about how can I invest it. And number 3, swap out 3 time sucks, you know what they are, and use that time to learn 2 new skill sets. If you do this for 3 to 6 months, you can easily add 2 more income streams and you'll be on your way. All right, so we have the plan. Let's go.
Hot girls don't gatekeep, so here are all of the accounts that I am using as a financially responsible 30-something to secure my financial future and why I'm using them. Number 1, my high yield savings account. This is like a regular savings account, but it just pays you more money. I use EQ Bank and Wealthsimple Cash in Canada, but a similar one in the US would be Ally Bank. I really like them because they allow me to set specific savings goals and then bucket each goal so my money stays organized. I keep my emergency fund in here, so that's 12 months of my bare bones expenses and any other short-term goals that I have, and I make a few $100s a month off of it. Number 2 are my GICs. In the US, something similar would be a CD or certificate of deposit. Since I have a larger emergency fund, I actually invest 6 months of that emergency fund into a GIC. This way I can earn some more interest on it, and I will only lock it in for 3-month intervals. I've been getting about a 5% interest rate on these. Number 3 is my TFSA. In the US, a similar account would be your Roth IRA, although the Roth IRA has more account restrictions on it. I am using this account to invest for retirement and grow my wealth tax-free. Number 4, my RSP. In the US, a similar account would be a traditional IRA or a 401k. I started contributing to this account when I was making over $80,000 a year in employment income because every dollar I contributed to it became a tax write-off. I used the money I saved in taxes to reinvest in the account and supercharge my growth. My goal for this account was to get it to 6 figures by 30 years old, and that way it would grow to over $1 million by the traditional age of retirement without me ever having to save or invest another dollar.
Most people don't know this, but immigrants can invest in the US stock market. You don't need to be a US citizen or a documented person. All you need is a taxpayer ID, and no, you won't lose access to your money if you have to move back to your home country all of a sudden. I know immigrants are afraid that when they move back, or if they're ever, God forbid, forced to leave, deported, that they will have lost everything they've been building. But no, you can still access those accounts from abroad. I can share a little bit about my experience. I am not a US citizen. I am a green card holder here in the US from Mexico, and I invest through Schwab. I have a Roth IRA, traditional IRA, and a brokerage. In addition to Schwab, there is also Fidelity that allows immigrants to invest.
As a first-generation immigrant, most of us are investing back home. That's pretty normal. For me, ever since I started working here in the US, I started investing most of my money in the Philippines. Currently, I have 3 real estate, 3 businesses, and a capital contribution. I'd say it's good, but to be honest, I'd rather spend those money to invest in the US, earning dollars before buying a house in the Philippines. I didn't know much about it back then, and of course, during my first year here, I haven't really decided yet if I'm going back to the motherland or live here. Right now, I would definitely stay here in the US. So my plan for my investment overseas is to flip it in the next 2 to 3 years. Right now, I am planning to sell 2 out of 3 of my real estate so I can transfer the money to the US stock market for my retirement, because I want to retire by 45 or 50. The other one that I'm keeping is my rental property. It's gonna stay with me for now. It doesn't really generate a good income for me, but it's coming in consistently. I still go back home for vacation, and I can use extra shopping money for my trip. Right now, I'm also in the process of liquidating 2 of my businesses in the Philippines. And lastly, I get most of my passive income from my capital contribution. I already stacked a good amount in there to the point that my interest is actually funding my trip to the Philippines next year. And I am very excited.
My immigrant family, don't make this mistake that I've made. Don't use your 9-to-5 job in the rich country to build or buy a house back home. Your 9-to-5 job in the rich country is to buy a house here and build equity and good credit. When that equity is built up in your house, you take some of that equity and you go back home and you buy your property or build your property in a very good neighborhood so you can either rent, which I won't do, or Airbnb or use booking.com. How much labor can you sell to generate enough capital to get enough cash to build your house back home? So it is better to use the house here to build a house back home. Let the house in the rich country be your cash register for the house you're building or buying in your native land. You get the gist? Real talk, yeah.
I am 27 years old and I currently have a net worth that is over 100K. Was it easy? No. Is it possible? Can you do it? Yes. And I'm gonna give you some tips that I just feel like people just like, come on, listen up. And I just want to say I am not a financial advisor, so take everything that I say and do your own research. Consult with someone that you trust. But I'm just hoping that things that I've done, it will give you a jump start into getting your financial life situation together. Open up a Roth IRA, specifically one with Fidelity, Schwab, Vanguard. I personally love Fidelity, but you can pick one with Fidelity, Schwab, Vanguard. Pick a brokerage. They're called brokerages. So pick a platform, pick a brokerage, pick the Roth IRA option, fill out your information, link your bank. You done it. You did it. Now, once you open it up, which I feel like is just the first hurdle, you got to pick investments. And specifically, pick ETFs or mutual funds. Now, when I was trying to decide what ETFs I wanted to pick, I went on Reddit. And Reddit, literally, if you just type in ETFs to put in Roth, you will see a consistent theme of people suggesting the same thing. So that's what I just did. You know, I picked what people were talking about. I mean, granted, I also did a little bit of my research, but most likely people are going to suggest VOO, SCHD. Fidelity has their own version of the S&P 500. Just if anything that is the S&P 500, just pick that. And you don't have to make it complicated. Don't make it complicated. That's what I did wrong when I was first starting. I made it really too complicated. Don't make it complicated. Just pick one. Pick one for now. And then once you feel comfortable and you feel like, all right, I'm going to like really spice it up, then you can go ahead and do more. But just pick one. Specifically the S&P 500. Anything that tracks that, pick that and invest. So even if you have $20, $5, baby, even if you got $1, just put it in there. You literally have a certain limit that you have to reach. So every year, this year, 2024, the limit is $7,000. If you can make it to $7,000, beautiful. If you can't, but you contribute 500, 1,000, whatever, that's something. That's more than what a lot of people put into their retirement account. So just put in as much as that you are willing to afford. And you, by putting it in the stocks will, the ETFs, all that stuff will make it grow. It's all compounding. You're gonna grow. It's gonna grow. It's gonna keep going and it's gonna snowball. And if you just don't look at it and look back, you'll see like in like 20 something years, oh shit, my $500 turned into 5K or 50, who knows? Another thing that helped me reach my net worth goal was opening up an high yield savings account. I don't know why I stuttered or I paused, I glitched. You can open one with Discover, Ally. I personally have one with Discover, Wealthfront. There's Capital One. There's a lot of good banks out there that are high yield savings. And the only thing about high yield savings is that it's an online account. So if you have cash on you, that can be a little, sometimes you got to go to like Walmart. You have to go to a CVS to deposit the money. But either way, a lot of my money is in my high yield savings. You want to make sure that you have a good nest eggs. I don't want you to just go ahead and invest without having that nest egg saved and good for, you need something for emergencies. So definitely put your money that you have been putting in your savings into a high yield savings so that it's making more money and it's making more of a return while you let it sit there. Duh. I'm fortunate enough to work at a company that gives me stock, and I'm in their ESPP program. So one thing that I've done is I've contributed to the maximum. So you can contribute from 1% to 10%. I let them take 10% of my check and I contribute. And once I'm granted those stocks, those ESPP, I don't sell it. A lot of people start selling it. No, I don't sell it. I still have them from this day that I started working there, and I'm going to continue to keep holding on to them. And they have grown so much. They have grown so much over the past 5 years, and I intend on holding on to them until I desperately need to like cash out. But I hold on to my ESPP. I don't sell them. I also contribute to my 401k. That is, I know, depending on, you know, certain people's situation, there are some jobs that match you, there's some that don't. My job, they match me, and so I match only up to the limit that they match. I'm not being extra with that, but I think they match me up to 6%, and that's what I do. I just do only up to 6%, and I also make sure to put that money, make sure that it's invested in an ETF that follows the S&P 500. I can go into depth into other things, or if you want me to go into depth into the things that I discussed, but as just an overview, those are the things that I have done. Those are the things that I recommend that people do if they can. And honestly, it's not even about, oh, I don't have money, or I'm not rich, or whatever. I'm not rich either. My salary is not even close to a lot of the rich people that they make, but I've been able to aggressively save and aggressively put money aside and just really prioritize my future self and wanting that vision to be able to live a stress-free retirement life, you know? So that's what I do. But if anything, open up a Roth and move your money to a high yield. That should be your first two things that you do right now.
I have a very extensive network and I know a lot of successful people, and a lot of my close friends are like, bro, you can meet anybody. How do you know so many people? How do you go about building relationships? There are no secrets to it. You just have to focus on a few things. When you are first meeting somebody, I am not concerned about talking about myself. I want to get to know you. I'm asking questions about your life, your success. What do you have going on? What's in motion for you? I want to be fully invested in who you are. A lot of people talk about themselves way too much, especially when you're meeting new people. That's a turnoff. It seems like you're self-centered. I want to get to know you. So I need to ask questions that is going to open up conversations for you to ask about me. 2, being approachable and having active eyes and an active face. A lot of you are not approachable and you don't even realize it. Resting bitch face, yes, a lot of you have it. I am always looking around, smiling at people, being very active with my eyes. It shows that I'm alert. 3, how can I help you? This especially comes when I'm talking to successful people, people with a lot of money, a lot of motion. How can I leverage my social media? How can I leverage my knowledge to help you? So in turn, you know that, hey, Kevin White, that's a good connection. I want to keep him around. I might sit down with somebody that's worth $5 million, but their social media sucks. I could give you strategy on how to curate and build out your social media. So now you know, anytime you have a question, I know who to go to. Let me hit up Kevin White. Everything comes down to a value add. It's like bartering. exchanging something for something else. The more value you show to somebody, the more that they want to keep you around. Networking with Kevin White.
So many of us are not aware that the places that we spend time in are spaces where we form connections, whether we like it or not. And they're also spaces where we build our reputation and we build our brands, whether we like it or not, because we're there, right? So are you in spaces where there could be future commercial opportunities for you? There could be something that allows you to grow, to be a better version of yourself, to achieve something. Are you in those kinds of spaces? Or are you in spaces where the modus operandi is just to forget about your life problems and keep it moving? You know, are you there to escape, or are you there to grow, to find peace, to connect with people? What are you in those spaces for, right? And in my journey, because I've never worked in corporate, remember, in my journey building my networks, I found that I have to be very intentional about where I spend my time, right? And it's not just business. It's about holistically, what do I want my life to look like? If I'm going to invite people to my house, what kind of people do I want to invite to my house? And who are they, you know? So I think a lot of us really undermine the concept of where we spend our time and how valuable that is in networking, in making ourselves better people, and in building the dream life that we want. You know, do you go to the park and talk to people, or do you just go and keep to yourself? Where do you go and spend a lot of your time? And I'm not saying you have to go to the golf course, please. I'm just saying go to spaces where you can connect with people who are on the same level as you mentally, right? And then you'll be able to discover who they are and what they actually do. So if you're into health and fitness and you're always at the gym, chances are you're going to meet people with the same values as you, right? And that's a good thing, because it allows you to have an organic relationship that allows you to open opportunities for one another. And I've also seen with some people that they take networking as a purely business function. So what does that mean? It means that they will go to the golf course simply to meet prospective clients, and so they're not actually there to build relationships. They're there to get money, and that is where they lose. That's why they won't get anything when they're there. Networking is about building relationships. It is not about getting money. That is something that happens in the process of developing this relationship that you have with people. So it takes time, which is why it's best to develop networks in spaces that you frequent often, because people get to trust you because they see you quite often. They assume that you're about what they're about because you're doing the things that they do, right? And then you become a member of the community, and then you can build the relationships. And once you've built the relationships, you can start to talk business. Networking is not a moment, it is a process, and a lot of us are not aware of that. And also, where you are known matters so much. It is better to be known in the rooms that you're trying to infiltrate, or the rooms that represent a part of you, than in spaces that honestly have no value. For me to be known in the club would mean nothing as Label Lion, because I'm trying to build business ecosystems. I'm trying to democratize access to information and all these other things. It does not matter if I'm known in a club, but it matters that I'm known in some boardrooms, in golf courses, maybe in schools, you know. So why would I spend all my time at the club? Why would I even be doing that? You know, I'm trying to get clients for my marketing agency. What kind of clients am I trying to get? Those are the places that I will go and literally spend time and be somebody who also invests in those environments. Because I think a lot of us also think that networking is this transactional thing where, you know, you go, you do this, you ask the person and blah, blah, blah. No. Networking is also you giving of yourself. So if you want clients in the restaurant business, go to those people's restaurants and spend some money. Often. Not once, not twice. Be a regular customer. Trust me, you'll meet the owner. Be known by the waiters. Be the VIP there. And not because you are saying you're important, but because they've given you that title because you come and you serve. You come, you're nice. You come, you participate. That is true networking. That is true relationship building, and it takes time. So I want you to ask yourself, it's another opportunity for you to start afresh. How are you moving through networking? What are the mistakes that you've been making? And how are you going to use this tip that I'm giving you to build better connections for your business so that it can last for a very long time? Let me know in the comment section below.